Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Bourbon. I'm an author, writing coach, an instructor, podcaster, and cover art designer. I created WriterSpark as a way to pay it forward, passing on many of the things I've learned over the course of almost 20 years and 34 books to date at the time of this recording. This is Nacho. You can see everything that WriterSpark has to offer at the website www.WriterSparkAcademy.com. There is literally something for every writer. Okay, on to today's tip. This tip is a really important one. It's about scenes and sequels. If these terms are not familiar to you, you're in for a real treat because they really break down how to write an effective scene and how to create scenes that resonate with your readers. So think of your novel as a series of connected Lego pieces, for example. Alone, they don't do much, but as you string them together, something real begins to form. Here is a quick overview, and it is just an overview of scenes and sequels. I have an entire course, Ready, Set, Write, on WriterSpark Academy that covers elements of writing a story, and one whole module is on scenes. More about that at the end of this recording and a discount, so make sure you check that out. All right, scenes and sequels. Scenes set the stage. It's where the action unfolds. It's the high energy sequence where characters engage in dialogue, conflicts arise, and the plot propels forward. We want this part of your book to grab the reader's attention and hold on. When we talk about scenes and sequels, that's different than seeing the overall kind of definition of a scene. And that's one thing that the Ready, Set, Write course goes into. So there's scenes, capital S, and then there's scenes and sequels, lowercase s's, that are sort of micro units within the bigger scene. Sequels, on the other hand, are a period of reflection and reaction. The sequel is a quieter aftermath of what came before. It's the moment of reflection and reaction following that intense scene. So while the scene moves the plot forward, lowercase scene, the lowercase sequel provides a breather, allowing characters and readers to process what just happened. Let's take an example. We have, for example, the scene showing a detective chasing a perpetrator down a dark alley, needing to get information from that person. And then the sequel, which would be later alone in her apartment, she wrestles with the suspect's cryptic words that he left her with, contemplating the implications, for example, of their encounter. So we had the action scene happen and then the aftermath. All right, let's kick off this tip with a little bit more about scene, the lively, action-packed segment that propels your story forward. Here's a closer look at its key elements. Every scene has a goal, motivation, conflict, and disaster. So the goal is, what does your character want? Every scene needs a purpose, a goal that your character strives to achieve. It could be uncovering a secret, resolving a conflict, or simply surviving some sort of perilous situation. The goal is what adds direction and intent for your character and scene. So let's use The Hobbit as an example. Bilbo Baggins wants to live a quiet, bookish life in the Shire. That's it. That's his goal at the beginning. Next is the motivation. Why does your character want this? You can't have a goal without purposeful intent. So there has to be a strong motivation for your character to want whatever it is they want. They can't want it just for the sake of wanting, just for the sake or the purpose of your book. There needs to be a strong motivation behind that. In The Hobbit, the motivation behind this quiet life that Bilbo Baggins seeks is that it brings him contentment. This is how a hobbit lives. Next is the conflict. What gets in the way of the character's goal? A scene needs conflict to keep things interesting. I remember going to a workshop once where the speaker said every single page needs conflict. And it's so true. Whether it's an argument, a physical confrontation, some sort of internal struggle, conflict is what adds tension and excitement. It's what keeps people turning the pages. It can be minor or major, but conflicts need to be present all the time. Okay, here's the example with The Hobbit. So first, Gandalf and then the dwarves arrive at Bilbo Baggins' hobbit hole, disrupting that quiet life. So that's the first conflict that he faces. And then next is the disaster, which raises the stakes. Every scene should have a moment where the stakes are raised, where the path to achieving the goal becomes even more challenging. This disaster intensifies the conflict and keeps readers invested in the outcome. So, with our Hobbit example, Gandalf tells him that he is the burglar and he is to come with the dwarves on their quest to reclaim their home. That's in absolute opposition to the quiet life that he wants for himself. All right, so we have those 4 elements of that part of the scene. Then we have the sequel, breathing room for reflection. This is the reflective aftermath that gives a pause in the action of the narrative. Here are the crucial components. The first is a reaction. How does your character respond? After the intense action of the scene, the sequel's purpose is to focus on your character's immediate emotional and physical reactions. This is what resonates with readers. This is that emotional aftermath, the moment of letting the events sink in. So Bilbo refuses to go. He denies that he is the burglar. He says he is not an adventurer. They have the wrong hobbit. So his reaction is visceral, intense, immediate. They've got the wrong person. Then we have a dilemma, the internal struggle of the character. So the sequel introduces this dilemma or internal conflict that your character needs to grapple with. It deepens the emotional resonance of the scene. It shows the complexity of the character, which adds layers to that character's journey. So Bilbo goes to sleep mulling over his guests, what they did to his home, their journey to reclaim their home when he has this nice, safe home all around him. And that's a huge conflict for him that he's pondering. Next, then, is the decision. And that is what propels us into the next scene segment of the scene and sequel pattern. So the decision actually sort of charts the course forward, propels it forward. So to keep the narrative flowing, your character needs to make a decision based on the events of this scene. Remember, you want your characters to decide things. You don't want things to happen to them and they just are along for the ride, drifting down the river. We want decisive action. And that's what Bilbo gives us. So he wakes up to find the dwarves are gone. And for a moment, he's relieved. But then again, he's got this beautiful home and they do not. And he makes the decision to leave the Shire and help them because don't they deserve to reclaim their home as well? That takes us into the next set of scenes and sequels, pattern, that propels the entire story of The Hobbit forward. Scenes and sequels work together, creating a progression in the story that keeps readers engaged, keeps them invested in your characters' journeys, keeps the characters making decisions and moving forward. A couple of things to keep in mind as you're crafting scenes and sequels. First is that it's a balancing act. Finding the right balance between scenes and sequels is key. It's really important. Too many intense scenes without reflective sequels in between can overwhelm your readers. It's too much high octane. It goes back to that pacing. An excess of sequels, on the other hand, can slow it down. So again, pacing. So it's all about striking a balance between those two components. Next is forward momentum. Remember, the goal is always to propel your story forward. So each scene and sequel needs to contribute to the overarching narrative, leading your characters on their transformative journey. You have a goal, a motivation, a conflict, a disaster, and that leads to a decision for your character that takes him or her forward in the narrative. Finally, reader engagement. Consider the emotional journey you want your readers to experience. Scenes provide the thrills. The sequels offer the emotional resonance, and that's the thing that connects them to the characters. You need these two components to work together to really pull the reader along. This was a super quick overview of scenes and sequels. In Ready, Set, Write, which is an online self-paced course from WriterSparkAcademy, there is a module on the elements of scenes and sequels, and motivation reaction units, which break down the pieces even further. This is how you take your hero on a journey that is ultimately satisfying for the reader. If you're interested in checking out that course, and I hope you are, go to the link in the show notes. This is November. We're coming up on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I've included a discount code to give you guys 40% off. That code is going to expire at 11:59 p.m. November 30th. So keep that in mind. The reason I want to give you 40% off is because I wish I had all the information then when I first started, or even 10 years into my writing career, that is in this course. This is a compilation of everything that I have learned in how you craft a story, how you mold that into a solid narrative that readers are going to want to read and that editors are going to want to buy. It can help you get there. 4 modules, a total of 27 videos, lessons, activities that will take you through the entire novel writing process, and it's going to help you complete what you've started this month. So you can start fresh with a brand new project, or you use what you've already got and apply the concepts to that project. So it's 40% off for you, anybody watching this video only. Check the show notes for the link, and I hope that you will take a look. I also hope that you'll start to implement scenes and sequels into the scenes as your characters move through. So action and then reflection. That is it. I will see you tomorrow with another quick tip to help you through your NaNoWriMo adventure. Happy writing.